Hello, and welcome to This Month in Behavioral Science, where we discuss the top stories of the month through the lens of behavioral science. Today we'll be talking about November 2021. I'm Alex Moog, host of Behavioral Science Toolkit, and with me is Samuel Salzer, founder of Habit Weekly. How are you doing, Sam?
Hi, Alex. Great to be with you. Yeah, I'm feeling good. It's very cold in Sweden. It's 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 15 minus degrees Celsius. So that's why I'm looking like a bad Halloween outfit borrowed from, I don't know, Macklemore or Toretto, what is his name in the Fast and Furious movies?
Mm-hmm. Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm looking like this, yes.
Okay, so let's just jump right into it. So this month, do you have a Habit Weekly share of the month for us?
I do. And this one is going to be hard to top in future editions because this is a really good one. So about 4 years ago, I released this 100 book reading guide to learn about behavioral design. And it took me a lot of time to put that together, and I was really happy with it. And then it took 2 days, and I felt like I had missed things, and there were new books coming out. And now 4 years later, there's been a lot of new books, a lot of great books in behavioral design and behavioral science. And so we felt there was a need to update it. And so we have released a new, improved, and much more fancy 100-book reading guide in behavioral design. So it now has its own website. It's quite nice. It's not perfect, but it has 4 levels based on your experience and interests. So level 1 is for anyone who's completely new and just wants some interesting, accessible reading in behavioral science. Level 2 kind of takes it a little bit more deeper in some more difficult reads, more kind of complex, maybe foundational texts, but still kind of a little bit more theoretical. Level 4 is all about how we can apply behavioral science. So how do we take the science and put it to practice through frameworks and processes and tools and strategies and all this fun stuff. And level 4 is going deep and wide. So depending on your interest, what your goals are, you might go in different directions in level 4. But that's the setup. So I'm very excited to have the guide reading out there.
So did you ask for any advice from people, or is this just you and some other Habit Weekly people putting it together?
So this has been a work by me and Madison Oaks. However, we have also taken nominations from a lot of people. So every one really, in some ways, that you see as like these legends of the field. So Richard Thaler, Kay Milkman, Dan Ariely, the list goes on. Cialdini. I'll miss a lot of names if I'm trying to remember all of them.
I'm curious, did they all recommend their own books?
It only happened 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
but yes, no. For the most part, they were very, very generous and very just, excited to help give recognition or attention to authors or books that they felt was important to read. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a really, really cool thing you guys put together. It sounds like with these different levels, you could probably jump in at whatever kind of stage in learning about behavioral science or related fields. So that's a really cool tool you guys have.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. And we'll do some future updates. We might have a way where we can become as good as Netflix or TikTok at recommending you the right content. We'll see. My dream version of this would be that you do something which I did when I was in Australia. This was in university, and I was doing some kind of volunteering work for the School of Life, they're called, School of Life. And they gave me this free voucher for a bibliotherapy session. So a bibliotherapy session is you go to see a therapist, but not a cognitive behavioral therapist, a book therapist that gives you a prescription of like 2-3 books you should read based on what you're kind of interested in and what you're doing in life or what's next for you. And so that was really fun. Like that was such an amazing thing to kind of leave with this like 3 personal curated recommendations. And I want in the future maybe the list to be more like that. So you kind of come in and you find a way to get like, these are the books that you need to read. Just for you. But We're getting there. We're getting there.
Well, that's really cool. I've never heard of that before. Bibliotherapy.
Right. It exists. You can still. I think if you Google it, you can probably find some. Yeah.
Yeah. Could people just call you up and then you could just tell them what to read?
I do feel like that is somewhat of my side gig, more for fun as a altruistic thing that I do for friends and colleagues. But yeah, I do that sometimes.
Awesome. Okay, so let's move on to talking about some of the stories this month. I think the big thing this month was the new COVID variant, which I'm not 100% sure what the correct way to pronounce it is. It's either Omicron or something related. But yeah, so this month we have a new variant appeared kind of toward the end of the month. And almost immediately, as soon as the variant was found in South Africa, a bunch of countries shut their borders for not everybody, but just a few countries, like mainly South Africa and some other African countries, to try to, I guess, prevent the spread of Omicron. But I think we could talk a little bit about whether people are evaluating risk properly here.
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts on this one. I without commenting much on the situation with Africa, because I'm not an expert at all. I'm based in Sweden. I don't know too much the situation, other than it seems very problematic. I would say that what has been interesting with the new variant, which goes back to conversations before when it comes to risk preferences, what's been very fascinating in this pandemic is the salience of the pandemic, right? So it's very rarely that we have this continuous talk and reporting and visual representation of something in a way where we've had now, from obviously daily numbers in the news about how many people have died or getting sick, to seeing people with masks that reminds us that there are people that are sick, that are kind of maybe carrying some form of virus. And so in general, it's been very interesting to kind of see how that has affected people. It's kind of like 2-year-long salience of a health danger. And in many ways, I'm surprised how strongly it was stuck. Like, I don't think people have really let down their guard as much as I maybe would have predicted initially. So I would say it's been impressive to see how habits and health behaviors have sustained and changed to kind of be more risk averse, to stay away from shaking hands, to continue wearing masks, to continue doing a lot of these behaviors that are trying to reduce risks and reduce contamination. When variants has come, it seems to really have shifted how people think about the risk of COVID, because I think what it connects to is something bigger as well, which is another big concept, which is uncertainty. And so it goes beyond behavioral science as well, where you think about that if there's uncertainty, you should just be more careful, right? If there's a risk, if there's uncertainty involved, that means there's a bigger, hard to calculate part of the equation. And so it's probably the right thing to see when a variant comes out to be, okay, we have no clue how this is going to turn out. Is the vaccine going to be effective for it? How quickly going to spread? How dangerous is it? So it's probably good to act on the side of caution when it comes to that.
The variants are really interesting to me as well. I think when Delta came, there was much of a similar reaction, right? It's like, oh, Delta, it's this thing that's spreading a lot really quickly. We don't know what the deal is at the moment. Is it going to be also like, we think it's more infectious, but do we think it's also like more dangerous, right? Is it going to be like the people who get infected, are they going to be more likely to get seriously ill and die? And we just don't know. And it's similar with this new variant as well, Omicron, where it's very early days, right? We don't actually know. We know that it's pretty infectious. We don't know whether it's like more infectious. We don't know whether the people who get the disease are going to be more likely to get seriously ill. And so I think that really has a lot to do with how we react. In terms of old variants, right? We've been exposed to Delta for a really long time now. And it's just kind of like old hat at this point, right? Like we've been exposed to it so much. It's like Delta, okay. It's bad, but it's been around for a while. We know what the deal is. Before Omicron, it was like Germany was way above. I'll put an image of the COVID graph, but the number of cases they'd had was like way above anything that they had previously, and yet no one was saying we should ban travel from Germany. And there's sort of this like mere exposure effect going on where like it's been around, so we're more comfortable with it. We know what the risks are. There's a lot less uncertainty around it. But then when a new variant comes along, it just completely resets, right? It's like, oh, there's this new named variant. We don't know what's going to happen. We haven't been exposed to it. Still, nobody is saying we should ban travel to Germany. They were saying we should ban travel to where Omicron was found in South Africa, which, as we've seen recently, is also potentially not where the variant started. It's just where it was found.
My perception of the quality of decision-making processes are still very low in terms of it doesn't seem like a lot of leaders have a very thoughtful, data-driven decision-making process, but maybe that's just me being a little bit skeptical, or maybe like, yeah, I don't know. It does seem that a lot of times it's more used to keeping whatever is going to keep people happy or seemingly happy. It seems to be a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to do. But yeah, I'm just fingers crossed that there's been early indication that this new variant might not be as bad as maybe first seen. So
yeah, let's hope.
Yeah,
for sure.
Let's hope.
So this month also is a big shopping month for a lot of countries, with Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I think in China they have Singles Day, and we've also recently been having a lot of issues with supply chain. So, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I have a general thought that it's obviously like this nightmare cocktail for how to get people to act quote unquote irrationally in terms of overspending money and so on, over consuming. And then when the news on the supply chain issues came out, I was like, oh no, this is like adding fuel to an already raging fire, or like throwing gasoline to this kind of raging irrationality concoction.
Well, so I think that one type of product in particular is really interesting in terms of a study of motivation. The new video game consoles that came out over a year ago that are still extremely scarce for people who want them, right? Like there's still way more demand than there is supply because of the chip shortage right now. And being a 20-something male, I have friends that are trying to. I have one of the new consoles, but I have some friends that are trying to also currently find one of these consoles. But
you're not talking about yourself now, so you've already got yours.
Well, okay, let me just say that my brother actually, I didn't do any of the looking for the product, because my brother last Christmas drew me a picture of a PS5 and said, I'm going to get this for you. And then he spent all year looking for it and eventually got it in August or September or something. So there's a lot of scarcity with this particular kind of product. But I have friends that are currently looking, and they're signing up for the notifications for when the supply comes in. They are always on the websites as soon as supplies are supposed to come in, and it's very motivating to get people to, from a behavioral science perspective, it's extremely high motivation because you don't know whether or not you're going to be able to get it that day, right?
For sure. This brings me back to 15 years ago. And I was with my friends really eager to try a new service out that was promising streamable music, that you didn't have to buy each song and you could just stream it instead. And they had just released kind of this early version that was free, but they only accepted like 100 accounts per day or something. So you have to go into this website. It's called Spotify. I don't know if you heard of this service.
You were an early
but it's based
adopter.
in Sweden. It's from Sweden. So I think I was one of the early ones, right? And I just remember that idea of like everyone talking about this new service, going to this website, hoping that you would, be one of those 100 people that day or something, and going there like, everyone at a certain time, everyone, going there and then, doing that for like 20 days straight. Like all of my friends, like just doing this, like it was, didn't have anything else to do. And then being like super, if someone got it, they were like, look at me, I finally got an account. I'm so cool. Look at me. So yeah, I don't know if it's completely real. I think maybe I've changed my memory of this a little bit. It might not be 100% true, but in my memory, I'm one of the first 1,000 customers on Spotify.
I'll give you a little bit of a story as well for when Gmail first came out.
Now we're going back to like early 2000s or something.
Yeah, no, I was very small, but my brother had managed to get an account from one of his friends. But the way that Gmail did it was like you only get 3 or 5 invitations that you can send to people, and you got to choose. And my mom made my brother give me and my sister accounts, and he was super upset that he couldn't give them to his friends.
Yeah, I guess the latest example of this was probably Clubhouse from me, right? Like, or I think about it as well, where there was I guess it was earlier this year. Was it earlier this year where everyone was on Clubhouse, like in the spring or something?
Yeah,
and
including you. You were doing regular Clubhouse meetings.
I did it for like a lot in a very short period, and then I just got tired of it. And it coincided with it not being as exclusive anymore. And I'm not sure if that's the case or if I just got bored. I think for me, it was just that, yeah. It was definitely more exciting beginning because it was a little harder to get, and it was kind of fun. It was quite a fun service. But then for me, it was just a lot of discussion on Bitcoin. And not for me. A lot of people like to talk about that, but not really me. So that's why I stopped using it. Yeah. But I got a lot of attention for that specific reason, that like I got a lot of messages saying like, hey, can I get an invite, and all these things. Like, the FOMO as well. I think it was a big factor in that sense, because they didn't record any of the sessions. And so you could listen to the podcast if it was a podcast, but then there you could only, listen to it live. But
so it had even more scarcity. Yeah. So it had like that social scarcity of like, you can only do it if you get an invite. And then it had that time scarcity where it's like, I have to do it. I have to listen or else I'm never going to hear this again.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Can I say one more thing about Cyber Monday and Friday and all these things? Because I'm very passionate about something called effective altruism. So the idea is pretty much, how can we do good in the best way possible is the idea. And it's a wonderful movement and community and a lot of different great organizations within kind of the effective altruism umbrella. And quite a few behavioral scientists as well being involved in different ways. But, when I think about these last weeks of spending sprees, there's one day for altruism called, Giving Tuesday, where it's aimed to kind of give people a chance to give for good. I don't know if it's a way to clear people's conscience of like their bad spending in the past days, or I don't know actually the story why it came to be Giving Tuesday. But I think it's a great initiative. However, I think it makes a huge mistake from a behavioral standpoint, which is that it shouldn't be Giving Tuesday. It should be Giving Thursday. It should be the day before. Give away the money you could have maybe spent later on the weekend. So you make a pre-commitment to kind of, in the same way as when you get your salary, you want to have an automatic default that takes away money and puts into a savings account so you can't spend it. The same thing should happen here. We should have a Giving Thursday, not a Giving Tuesday. And we should give it to givewell.org. If you want to know, givewell.org, a free shout out.
I'll put up a link for that.
Yes, they're fantastic. They're really, really fantastic. Amazing things to say about them. But Yeah, what do you think about that idea? Moving it to Thursday instead of Tuesday.
So you're saying you put the donations before all of the spending.
Right. Before you have spent all your money. Yeah.
So that's an interesting idea. I think my first thought was there's a bit of chunking all of your spending at one time. And I thought from a behavioral standpoint, that's good for the donations, right? It's good for Giving Tuesday at the end where people are like, I'm used to giving up a bunch of money. What's an extra however much, right? It's like you're putting out thousands of dollars, just putting out some more money, and it's less cognitively effective to me than waiting a month and then donating at like the end of December when like people are doing their end of year giving or whatever. That was my first thought. My second thought though is that putting Giving Tuesday at or Giving Tuesday as Giving Thursday and having it before the spending could give people more moral licensing to spend more on themselves later. So from like a business standpoint, the businesses should be wanting Giving Thursday, right? It's like, okay, give money on Thursday and then you're free to spend as much money as you want on yourself for the next 5 days or whatever. Yeah.
I think both of those are valid. I would throw out a great idea, according to me just now,
Okay.
if anyone wants to run with it, is to have Giving Thursday and then set it up so that people can give either, or maybe do it like this, where they can give some money straight away. Like, here's some great opportunity to give to charity, and give people opportunity to match their spending. So whatever they will spend in the coming days, they promise to match to charity.
All of it. So like if they're spending thousands of dollars, those $1,000.
Yeah, that'll be the best scenario. Or if it's like 10% or whatever of your spending, or 20% of your spending. So you make a pre-commitment. You can make a pre-commitment for Giving Tuesday, so that either you have some form of fancy way of setting it up so that actually you can match it somehow, or it's a pre-commitment for Tuesday where you can get an email saying like, hey, remember this thing you promised? Here you go. Now you do it.
So really you don't want Giving Thursday. You want pre-commitment Thursday. And then Giving Tuesday.
I think you want both. You want both. Yeah.
No,
you can make it some form of special thing where you get really motivated to give on Thursday, and then you can also be like, once they've done that, then give them a chance to sign up for this pre-commitment for Giving Tuesday as well. Because then they've already done something nice, and so they'll be more likely to probably agree to do something more nice, maybe. I hope. This is just a... Yeah, go ahead.
We have to get in touch with whoever makes all of these fake holidays around this one week. And
Illuminati?
The Illuminati. Yeah, exactly. We need to get in contact with the Illuminati and pitch them this idea for next year. I think it's great.
Yeah. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. If we're not back next month, it's because we found the Illuminati and they did not like that we found them. So, speaking of conspiracy theories, look at that segue. Mm-hmm. That was just seamless.
There you go.
There's a movie coming out in December, a Marvel movie, Spiderman No Way Home. And I think this movie is absolutely fascinating. I don't know if this is just my internet bubble has kind of like curated this stuff for me, or if other people have experienced this. But for this movie, there have been sort of a lot of conspiracy theories about the content of the movie. Recently, they've shown a bunch of different villains from earlier Spider-Man movies. So they have Doc Ock from like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. Same with they have the Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin from the Tobey Maguire movies, and then they have Electro, Jamie Foxx's Electro from Andrew Garfield's movies. And so people have been really speculating about whether or not Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going to be in the movie. And I think this has a lot of, like, these speculations have a lot to do with conspiracy theories in general, because there is no actual solid evidence that they're in the movies, but people really believe it and want to believe it based on lots of little pieces of information that they've kind of found scattered amongst all of the official information. And so there are a lot of these photographs on the internet of, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire in different scenes and things, but it's impossible to know whether or not these things are doctored, right?
So who is planting this? Is it like fans planting this information, or are the studio planting information?
It could also be that because people are really excited to see these Spider-Men in the movie, that they are then coming up with information and trying to twist information in a way that makes it seem like they actually are, which I think is very related to the way that other conspiracy theories operate, right?
That's usually one of the main things that makes conspiracy theories so popular, is that they're so fun to share. That, when it comes to QAnon, for example, it's fun to think that you have some inside information, or you want to plan something that becomes very popular, or like you found a Q drop in this scenario, I think they call it. And in the same way here, it's obviously like it has a lot of, you get a lot of clout for being someone who can report on like, oh, maybe this villain comes out. Here's this secret screenshot that's been leaked. Like if you're that person, that obviously is fun for you because you feel like you're special and you're getting probably like a lot of social approval for it as well, or status. Yeah.
And often these things are based on a lack of solid evidence, like doctored photos, like flat earthers, or like the moon landing was faked. It's like all of these things are clearly not on a base of solid evidence. Of course, this being said, if these Spider-Men are in this movie, this is going to make me look extremely foolish as like, oh, it's not actually conspiracy theory if it's true,
Well, I'm a major cinephile. Like I love to go to cinema and watch a lot of films. People know that very well about me. And my advice for everyone is to get the best of all worlds here, is to just don't watch trailers. And I always go to movies mostly just knowing the poster, usually the IMDb or the Letterboxd rating for it, and maybe like the director. So I get a little bit of sense. Maybe I'll read the description sometimes, but I try to even avoid reading the description. And then every movie for me is like how you're feeling now about Spider-Man. So
it's like we're just uncovering the truth by seeing this movie. Yeah. Well, do you think you enjoyed it more not knowing what was going to happen?
100%. For me, I think the filmmaker makes the film expecting the people don't know what's going to happen, right? So I think a filmmaker makes a film for someone to just walk into cinema and just see it, right? Trailers are to sell seats. I can rant about this for a long time, but trailers are meant to sell seats to the cinema, not to improve the cinematic experience. That's why they show you sometimes like 90% of the film in a trailer, so that you have to go to cinema to find out the last 10% of the film, what happens. And then hopefully you forgot enough so that you will enjoy the first 90%. But probably the funniest bits, the most intense moments, whatever, that's going to be in the trailer. So you're not going to get that in the film if you just, you're going to see it again if you go to the cinema, right? There's not going to be any funnier one-liners that they didn't include in the trailer. That's in the.
They put the best stuff in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when do you remember? Have you seen Parasite? From like a couple years ago?
Of course.
So
of course.
I went to go see that with friends, and I didn't know anything about the movie. I knew it was like very well critically received, and I knew that it was kind of like a thriller or something. And I assumed it was going to be some sort of a horror movie where there's an actual parasite that comes and like
some alien invasion kind of thing
or whatever. Yeah. And so for the first like half of the movie, I was just waiting for some like monster to come out, or like someone to eat something that they weren't supposed to or something. And then the whole other part of the movie would start, and that just never happened. And I don't know if that actually made the movie better or not, but it's a really good movie. Yeah. It's
a fantastic film. Yeah, I had a little bit similar thing. I went to watch Last Night in Soho the other day, a new film by Edgar Wright, who's a really great director. And so I knew him, and he's done things like, I think, End of the World, Hot Fuzz. Anyway, a lot of this film are very playful, very fun. Went into the cinema thinking that, well, if every movie that is ever made has been kind of fun, playful, cinematically kind of entertaining. Surely this is going to be the same, right? No, that's not at all what happened. Last Night I Saw was like a thriller horror film that have had me sit in my chair like I was holding on for dear life, pretty much, doing my best to not like scream and squirm too much in my chair. Or I literally didn't look at the cinema for like 20% of the film. I was just looking down in my seat. So sometimes this strategy is a terrible strategy. You can end up in a bad setting like I did. But.
Well, I think if we can wrap this back to a behavioral science-y related topic, having having something be really unexpected, especially emotionally, kind of really brings out the emotion as well, right? So if you knew going in that it was going to be like a thriller type movie, maybe you wouldn't be as had been as on the edge of your seat, right?
No.
Yeah. And same with like, if you didn't know that the movie you're going into was like a comedy, for instance, then maybe it wouldn't be as funny. Be unexpected. That's the takeaway there.
Well, for some things, like we like unexpected when it's fun. We don't like it when it's about COVID. So that can be the way to tie up maybe this week's or this month's episode.
That is a brilliant wrap up. Well done.
Thank you. This was fun. Another fun one. I enjoyed it. Hopefully next time, I will definitely still be in my dark recording studio here, but hopefully wearing not so much like 4 layers to keep warm. Hopefully it gets a little bit warmer here in Sweden. All
right. So thanks for watching. To learn more about anything discussed in this episode, check out the links in the description. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and to the Habit Weekly newsletter to keep up with all things behavioral science. And if there are any important topics you think we missed this month or anything you're looking forward to next month, let us know in the comments below. So see you next time.
Thanks, Alex. See you in a month.
All right. Bye, Sam.
Bye.